Hi, I have to say first, it is entirely possible that I've been living under a rock and just didn't know about this. So if you've already heard this, if it's old news to you, I'm sorry. If you're like me and feel personally victimized by this, just kidding, kind of. I'm sorry to break this bad news to you. About 4 years ago, when I became a certified THM lifestyle coach, when the program first opened, I had my first client, and she told me it's totally fine to talk about this. She had some stubborn weight, and working with her is actually, and with my own year-long weight loss stall, those two were the big driving forces behind me coming up with my week 4 of boot camp, which is dealing with stubborn weight, going through, I have a big list of things that we work on. But one of the things that was so interesting to me was that she was eating these Kirkland. They were low carb protein bars. They have 21 grams of protein. They taste pretty good. She seemed hooked on these chocolate chip and brownie bars. At the time, I couldn't find a lot on the main THM Facebook group. I just had looked over the ingredients, said, you know, they have some off-plan ingredients. Let's cut those out. Even if somewhere someone has said their personal choice, at the time I didn't know if they had been approved as personal choice on THM. I just didn't see the information anywhere at that time. So I said, let's just cut them out. Even if they are personal choice, which I don't know that they are, they might not be right for you. So let's just try, why don't you, we started making the instant protein bars and the ultimate, I don't know if it was the ultimate e-bars. There were some THM recipes for some really good bars that were great replacements. So we started doing that instead. Well, I couldn't figure out why that made it at the time, but that was just had a huge impact on her weight loss, and she started dropping weight. So then a couple years later, I was working with someone else who was having just one a day, and I said, hey, why don't we just try cutting those out? She cut it back to once a week. We still didn't see a lot, but she cut them out completely, and then we started seeing some progress, and I started thinking, I'm onto something here. What is the deal? Well, I got a box of these for my kids. I don't eat them anymore. I won't, after seeing what happened. But for kids, you know, my kids eat a lot of off-plan foods or tons of crossovers. So I went ahead and grabbed a box of these. I hadn't gotten them in a long time. And I looked at the package just recently, and I saw, I don't know if you can see it there, now the package says 10 grams of carbs, where it used to say 3 to 4 grams of carbs. Not just any carbs, 10 grams of net carbs. So I started a rabbit hole of research and checked all the ingredients. They did have an ingredient change, but nothing that would significantly change the carb count that I could see. It looks like the ingredients are very, very similar to what they used to be when the package used to say 3 to 4 net carbs per serving. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying necessarily it was the same product, but they figured out the carb count was wrong, and so they changed it now. Not saying that. I'm just saying this is information that would have been useful if brought to my attention quite some time ago. So if you eat these, you need to be aware, not only are there a few off-plan ingredients, but these are crossover bars. The limit for an S is 6 grams of carbs if you're buying something from the store. This has 10. If you have stubborn weight and you're eating these aren't the only flavors. There's tons of flavors. You might want to consider switching it up. These seem to be higher on the carb index, net carbs even, than we initially thought. And whether or not, I know people choose to have off-plan things on THM. I know there are things that could be personal choice items that THM has sanctioned as personal choice that are fine. But I think this is a good lesson for how it impacts you. Some people I've worked with could not have these. I'm just saying maybe that's why. Maybe they couldn't have these and lose weight because the carb count was higher than we were led to believe, and they were pretty consistently getting into crossover territory, especially if you stack fuels. Let's say you're using this as your protein and it's an S, and that's, or you think it's an S, and that's great. And then you had something else with it, like a low carb tortilla. That would absolutely push you into crossover territory. So just a quick note, a little PSA, if you have these and you're not losing well, I don't want to knock any brands in particular, but this might be something you cut out. And I also wonder if it were the case that perhaps the formula was very similar and they just recalculated the carbs and figured out that, oh, this has more carbs, which maybe it's not the case. Maybe they completely changed everything and they were super low carb and now they're not. I don't know for sure. If that's the case, I don't know how we know that it's going to stay at this level either. Maybe it could be recalculated again. Just something to keep an eye out for, and maybe consider giving these a break if you use them.